Hey, welcome to the show. This is the first edition for 2025, the Avid Cyclist channel. And we are here with Bill Plock with 303 Endurance, but also, more importantly, he is the man who used to run the ride of the Rockies, but now runs Colorado's ride. And for the last 3 years, he's been putting this epic ride together in the southwest corner, headquartered in Durango of Colorado. So, Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm a little nervous now. I didn't know it'd be the first one of 2025. I got to hit a home run.
Well, opening day is this week, so that works out well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rockies home opener. It's Friday, I think, isn't it?
Pardon? What was
it? Rockies home opener is Friday.
Yep, it is Friday.
Yeah.
So tell us about the ride.
The ride, boy, that's a big question. So the big picture, I guess, is it's a 5-day road bike tour, starting in Durango. We stay 3 days in Durango, well, two days really, and then the third day is a transition between Durango and Pagosa Springs. We ride up Wolf Creek Pass and Pagosa Springs, and then that's kind of a half day, and then you got a half day to relax at the hot springs there, and then we ride back to Durango. That's the 30,000 foot view. The highlights real quick. The first day we ride to Silverton. So if people can ride to Silverton and take the train back, and we'll take their bike for them, or they can turn around at the top of Mullis Pass and ride back down into Durango. So it's either a 47-mile day or basically a 90-mile day, depending on what you do. So it's a great day, great scenery. Mullis Pass is phenomenal. The train is a lot of fun, and a lot of people like to just, feel the history. That's what that day is all about. Get into Silverton and have lunch and then get on the train.
Yeah, that whole area is amazing. I mean, that whole corner of Colorado is just the most epic scenery in the world. What major passes? You do Wolf Creek passes. What other passes are included there? If somebody's like really into the climbs and into seeing the heights.
So there's really, the first day we do Coal Bank and Mullis. Those are the two main passes. So if you did, like, say, the Race the Train, which is a popular ride on Memorial Day weekend, that's the same route that they use to go to Silverton. And then on the second day, we do a loop around Durango. There's not really a pass, but there's a couple of pretty good climbs. One going up to Ben Nighthorse Reservoir, and then we explore out towards Hesper's Pass and some of that area. And then the third day, not a lot of climbing, just some rollers as we go down into the Southern Ute Reservation area. And we have a really fun lunch stop at Ignacio. The town there, they have a nonprofit. It's like a incubator center. It's an old elementary school. And inside there's probably 10 really small nonprofits that basically occupy a classroom. And they, really small things like, single women help that, in the area, or, small, kids, whatever. But they come out and they make sandwiches, and they have all kinds of different food. And we raised like almost $4,000 last year on the 2 stops that we had with those guys. So wow. They love us coming through, and it's a lot of fun, and they greet us just like we're family. It's awesome.
So is this the same route that you've done and all the same stops that you've done over the past 3 years? Are they all the same?
It is the same. Yep. We'll have a couple of, like on day 2, we're going to have a different optional route than we've had before, just so you can make it a really short day, 30 miles. You can make it a medium day, like 45 miles. You can make it a bit longer, 66 miles.
Okay.
So one of the goals of the ride is that when I did ride the Rockies, and I've been on other tours like that, I found that moving every day was kind of stressful. Like you get up at crack of dawn, you jam all your stuff in a bag, you take it over to the truck, you get on your bike, and then if you beat the truck there, it's kind of a drag because you don't have your stuff. So we designed this whole thing so that you could kind of take in the area. We have 2 nights in Durango, then you move, 2 nights in Pagosa, then you come back. So you get a chance to really bond with the community a little bit more. So like, for instance, on the second day in Durango, you can come back as early as probably 10 a.m. if you really wanted to. And then you have a whole day to do whatever, go whitewater rafting, go fishing, do nothing, shop, hang out, whatever. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, I like that idea that you can kind of come back and absorb, like you said, the community, restaurants, whatever you want to do. It sounds like,
Yep.
and that's kind of cool. It's not a marathon to
Right.
move every day.
Yeah.
So you've been with this. This has been going on for 3 years. How did this come to be? Because you were with the Ride of the Rockies prior.
I did that for 1 year, and
Mhm.
I was kind of a fire. It was like drinking out of the fire hose. I mean,
I bet.
because I didn't get hired until basically April 1st, and the ride was June 15th. So, because the ride director, he left the organization and they needed somebody. So I got recommended by a couple of folks, and I learned a lot in 6 weeks. I mean, I think I aged 10 years in 6 weeks. It was crazy.
That doesn't sound like good learning.
I mean, you know what? It really was, now looking back, because a lot of things I learned, I still are very useful now. I hadn't really done a bike. I had never been a bike ride director. So I think just pulling that, I took the whole Ted Lasso approach to being the ride director. I just like let people do their jobs, and not
Mhm.
overcoach and over demand, and just let people sink into what they're supposed to do. But anyway, that all aside, what I really started to see, and I could see the financial side of it too, was that model was super expensive. It was hard on riders because of, like we talked about, with the daily change, venue changes, but also over the years, because of different things, different reasons, they added on this, or there was just a lot of expectations that were super expensive, and the ride ended up losing quite a bit of money, lost quite a bit of money the following year, and now they're out of business. So
Well, weren't they changing routes every year, basically?
they were. So that's there's an appeal to that, of course, because what we felt is, we do have returning customers. I know of some that are coming back now for the third straight year, same routes, but they just enjoy the experience and the camaraderie that's built and all of that. But you run the risk of, people want new stuff. So, I get both sides of that argument. And with Ride the Rockies, I do like the moving venues a little bit, but it also is a lot of work, because you got to start all those relationships over the second the ride ends with the previous year. So you got to go back and, meet the sheriff of this town, or the town manager, or, you just have to start to build those relationships immediately, because they're super important.
Well, I would think that would be tough for this. Like if it's a small town you're going through, and they're upping their staff, they're doing all this stuff and logistics for them for a tour that's only going to come through once. Versus yours, you're coming back, so it kind of builds on itself, and you get that kind of I guess, a little bit of culture between you and the town. And yeah, maybe everybody doesn't do it every year, but I would think that you'll have more people that will come on, new riders all the time, because you got that built-in culture to the ride. Just like the big rides, like Copper Tri, Triple Bypass, they do the same route every year. But boy, you go through Idaho Springs on the Triple Bypass, and you're going to hear cowbells early in the morning, and a lot of people clanging them.
Right. Yeah, no, that's all true. And for us, we have really good relationships with the town people from Durango, Pagosa, and Ignacio, and Silverton. So, I mean, I know the sheriff on a first name basis, and, they're very cooperative. We're not a big, I guess I should emphasize this too. And our goal is to be only 300 to 350 riders. We don't want to make it bigger than that. Whereas, a lot of these other tours, they really need the big numbers, like 1,500 to 2,000 to make it financially doable. And to your point, the state of Colorado has just gotten busy, right? The mountains are busy. I was just in Breck last weekend. It's crazy. And a lot of the towns really, when I was with Ride the Rockies and working with them, they really struggled with one night, because it's a one night in a hotel does not help the hotel.
No.
I mean, you get 600 people rolling into your hotel, and then 600 people rolling out. Now they got a whole hotel to clean in 3 hours to get the next guest in. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the same with the infrastructure of anything in the town. So, there's a lot of fatigue. And I think, talk to Pete Piccolo, for instance, of Bicycle Colorado, and he addressed that right now events have to be aware of the fatigue of the environment that they're going in. So we try to keep our impact pretty minimal with that size of a ride, and it's still very fun, and it feels good, and it feels like it's something happening, but it's not massive.
That sounds, I mean, it sounds like a blast. When you're in town, what kind of activities? Do you have any planned activities in the towns like in Pagosa or the Hot Springs? Or is it pretty much everybody's on their own, or do you get things set up beforehand?
We have a couple things. We try not to get too programmed because a lot of people, they don't want to be stressed to try to get somewhere or
Oh,
whatever,
sure.
right? So, and it puts more strain on us. But we do have what we call a partner party on Tuesday of the ride week at Ska Brewery. They're one of our sponsors, and we invite, like, let's say Avid Cyclist was there and you wanted to put a little table up because your media partner will say, and you just want to have flyers or stickers, or like We Ride For, they put a table up, or
Sure.
when we invite these teams like We Ride For or Samaritan Cycling or Davis Finney, who are usually part of our group, and they can go up and have a little speech in front of people, and Scott will give us a beer, and then everybody orders dinner. It's a really nice evening. And then in Pagosa Springs, the first year, we rented out the theater, and we had the movie with Megan Hotman. I'm spacing the name. It featured the 6 cyclists from around the world that impact the community. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed.
I am too. Sorry, Megan, if you watch this. I'll think of it before we hang up. But we showed that, and we raised money for the Pagosa mountain bike team.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm probably doing what you're Googling. The engine inside.
Yes, thank you. The engine inside.
Google Wars.
Yeah. So Megan, she was on the ride, so she got up on the stage, and her and I kind of interviewed her about the experience of the movie and how it impacted her life and this and that. And we had a third of our ride showed up to do it. It was $10 a piece, and all the money went to the high school. So last year was really fun. On top of Wolf Creek Pass, the Pagosa mountain bike team went and got fresh peaches from the western slope, and they cut fresh peaches on top of Wolf Creek Pass. And then as the riders got to the top, all the high school team was cheering them on, and it was really fun. And the unanticipated benefit, I guess, of that whole thing was that I talked to the coach later, and I talked to some of our riders, and the coach and the kids were like, this is so cool to see people doing a lifetime sport. It kind of inspired them to know they're on a good track. Like, this is why we ride bikes, and we can do this until we're 70 or 80 years old. And then conversely, some of the riders were like, it was so cool to have all the cheering going on from these high school kids. It was really inspiring. So it was a kind of a mutually interesting thing.
So what are the dates of the ride?
August 18th through the 22nd.
Okay. And then from a logistics standpoint, you guys partner with a company that handles some logistics on this. Is that my understanding?
Yeah. So
Solutions?
Yep. Summit Cycle Solutions, who's been, part of Ride the Rockies since 15 years ago. And they work with Triple Bypass. They work with some other national tours, and they provide a variety of logistics on our ride. They do the aid stations with sign mark, the marking of the signs, the luggage transfers, the bike transfer out of Silverton. That's primarily what's handled. And then they also handle hotel reservations. So when you register for the ride, then you can have an option to work with Summit Cycle Solutions, who's curated hotels in both Durango and Pagosa Springs, and they contract the rates, and then so you can use that as well.
Okay. So it sounds very, very concierge. Like you got.
Yeah, we do have camping, and that's because that was a big part of Ride the Rockies, and I feel like I should just talk about camping a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
So the first year, our ride's headquartered at the fairgrounds in Durango, and they have a couple of baseball fields. They have the rodeo stadium and all that stuff. So the first year we were able to tent camp on the baseball fields, which that's kind of what the Ride the Rockies has done for years and years. But last year they outlawed camping. So we were able to camp indoors at the fairgrounds, but they won't let us do that this year because their fire alarm system isn't up to code. So they don't want anybody staying the night, which is a bummer for them because there's a lot of other groups that would like to do the same thing. So we do have camping, but it's a commercial campground a little bit, like 5 miles out of town, which is fine, but it is available. It's just not quite as, it's not quite there. But here's the funny sort of, I think, weird part is we also rent out the parking lot in front of the fairgrounds. So if you have a camper van or a trailer, or you can just sleep in the back of your truck, they don't have a problem with that. So you can come stay there and stay in your car or whatever. And we open the bathrooms and we'll have porta potties, and it can be a little party out there too. We have a fee for that. And what's cool about that fee is it gets you 2 days of hot springs access in Pagosa Springs. And that alone is worth.
That's no longer a fee. That's just a good deal.
Yeah. I mean, when you bake that in, we actually lose money on camping, to be honest, but we want that experience available for folks because we know there's a group of people that want that.
That sounds cool. So let's pretend I'm totally out of shape or just thinking about doing something like this and ride a little bit. What would be the best way for somebody to say, hey, I want to do this in August. Oh my gosh, it's April Fool's Day tomorrow. How do I get started? What would you recommend?
Get on your bike. I mean, there's a lot of ways I'd recommend. I mean, we are partnering with Tracy Jacobs, who I know you know, and she's got some Colorado's Ride specific training plans. They can be interactive or they can be fairly static, but she'll do a custom plan for everybody. She's got a price on her website. So that's kind of cool. You could consult with her. You could obviously Google or Chat GPT a training plan for yourself, I suppose. Get on your bike and just start riding, right?
That's how I did it when I first got back onto riding, just started riding.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I do get that question, and we're going to address it more probably formally at some point with Tracy on our website, just so people know where to go easier. But, we get a lot of people from the Midwest, and they do get a little intimidated about the mountains. If they haven't ridden in Colorado, they're a little intimidated about altitude. So we partner with Common Spirit, formerly Centura, and we have a doctor from them who at the cycling summit coming up on April 17th at Primal, a little plug there, 6:00, April 17th, Primal on Cherry Creek Drive South. He'll be one of the presenters, and he's going to talk specifically about altitude and training for that and how to acclimate. Tracy will be there talking about coaching. We have a nutritionist, and we have myself and some other folks will be there. But I think the way to get started is to just get started, but put some goals out there. Midwest, go find small hills, go do high, low cadence, high, more, harder gear kind of riding, just to get used to maybe that kind of fatigue and that load. There are ways to do it.
When I decided what was it? I had a partial knee replacement. Then I decided to do the Elephant Rock after I got back on a bike. Hadn't ridden a road bike in 25 years.
Wow.
Just decided to do that to rehab my knee. That's how I got back into racing eventually. But did the Elephant Rock. I was so proud. Had a beer afterwards. Don't ever have a beer after a century ride and then make decisions.
Yeah.
And I saw a tent for the triple bypass. So I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm all psyched. Signed up for it, paid, looked, and it was 6 weeks.
Mm.
And man, I was like on panic training mode. And every weekend I would go up to Idaho Springs Park and do 2 of the passes out of there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing to do though, because, I talked to Tracy last night, as a matter of fact, because we put together a video, and I think climbing for folks that don't regularly climb in the mountains, it's such a different mindset because you're on load the whole time. There's no downhill typically. You're pedaling for an hour or 2 hours, and you kind of got to get used to that one way.
You got to get used to it. You got to get used to a higher cadence. You can't get into trudging at 60 RPMs or you're just going to die. Yeah. And you just got to be able to relax. Most people I watch them, they get so tight in their upper body while they're riding when they're, under load, and they get tight. And it's like, no, you got to relax every muscle that's not working.
Right. So, and hydration is huge.
Oh, it is. Even if it's a cold day, that's the scary part is people think it's chilly. I don't need to hydrate. I'm not sweating bad.
Right.
No, it's coming out of you.
And clothing is super important, as you know. I mean, You've got to learn how to do layers. You've got to use arm warmers and leg warmers and things like that, because the conditions obviously vary as you climb and come down. And it's important to stay dry, and it's important to stay warm. You don't want chattering going on and your arms shaking, and the next thing you know, it's out of control. There's a lot of little things, and that's all the kind of stuff we're going to talk about at the cycling summit.
That'll be great. And because I'll tell you one thing, two things that when I was working out and doing passes on the weekend, the training was great. Got used to really climbing in altitude. It was awesome. The other thing was bringing layers and knowing what to expect. So I wasn't surprised if I had to put on layers, take off layers. And I was doing that every weekend. Layers were going everywhere. And sure enough, when I finally did the triple, not a cloud in the sky. Was the most gorgeous day in the world.
Yeah,
I stayed in my shirt the whole time. Nothing.
I think I've only had one triple where I stayed dry. There's always that random thunderstorm that gets you a little bit or whatever, but I've never had it too bad. But there's a lot of tricks, right? I mean, that's the other thing. I think it's important that people, maybe if they're a little bit new to it or they're just whatever, just go find people to ride with, because you learn a lot when you ride with other people. And one of the things we're talking about doing, and maybe you'd like to be part of this, is we'd like to set up some training rides for Colorado's Ride, starting, May, June, July, that kind of thing, sponsored by different folks. Not a money thing, just like, hey, Avid Cyclist is going to be having a training ride for Colorado's Ride. Come on out, and here's where you're out, stuff like that. Because I do think it's important that people in a group, you're motivated, you kind of chat, you get up the hill easier, and you learn what people do there. You're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. He just pulls his arm warmers down. He doesn't take them off, left them on his wrist so that when he goes down, he can just pull them right back up.
Exactly.
Stuff like that,
and also when you start training with people, you start relaxing more about the climb, because when you're doing it by yourself, it's all in your head. When you're training by yourself, you just get so centric, and you're not enjoying it. You're not seeing what's out there, but also you just are thinking, you get so serious, and you just think inside, and you're thinking about the pain. You're thinking about almost like you're being a professional, and you forget to enjoy yourself. And when you even train with other people on a hard climb, it's relaxing. You realize, wow, I can really talk while I'm doing this. This is kind of cool.
and descending, which I think people take for granted, but there's a lot of skill in that. And I do not claim to be a great descender. I'm a little bit of a chicken type of person.
I'm right behind you.
I'm not a speed guy.
Market.
But it's also good when you find somebody that is a good descender, because you watch their lines and you're like, oh, that's a little bit different line that I would have taken. And that person they just go, and you're like, okay, I got it.
People that are really good descenders like that, when they can descend like that, it's almost their freak shows. They are just fearless, but they're so calm. And it just looks like it's so effortless. They just look fluid, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, and we'll have Michael Bowers at the summit. We're talking about some things like gear ratios and braking, and just because obviously a lot of new bikes now are all disc brakes, but there's still a lot of caliper bikes out there. So there's different strategies on braking with those two different systems, and the kind of gearing they have these days with electronic shifting, of course, but the wide range that these derailleurs handle now is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'll confess, I have calipers on my S-Works Tarmac.
I still have caliper brakes myself, so yeah.
I like them. I love my disc on my gravel bike, but I love my calipers on my roadie.
Yep.
I'll confess.
Yep, I don't have a problem with it.
What's the date of that summit again?
What's that?
What is the date of the summit?
It's April 17th at 6:00 at Primal Wear.
Cool. And we'll flash that up on the screen here too. So that will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to the ride, and I think you can count on myself. Avid Cyclist will be there.
Okay,
that will be fun. Awesome. And anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Let me think. No, I mean, just thanks for having me, and the community about this is super important to us. We do, I guess I should say this, 50% of our proceeds go back to nonprofits. So
that's awesome.
We really try to support the community. If you have a cycling team, say like the Samaritan House or We Ride For, whatever, if you come down as a team, and we've given back to each of those teams in the last 2 years, a certain amount per rider that they bring. We also give back to the high school teams down there and some other organizations. So it's important to us to be a good steward of the community. We understand that cycling in my book is a privilege. And so we really like to cooperate well with the town and the Colorado State Police. And a testimony to that is that we really push hard for single file and, good road managers and all of those things. And it paid off big time last year because the Colorado State Patrol really commented how good we were, and they allowed us to do two-way traffic coming back off of Mullis Pass. They've never allowed that before. So we were pretty proud of that.
Yeah. Hey, if the State Patrol's on your side, that helps things, and it makes everybody feel a little bit more secure too while they're out there.
Totally.
Just because I think it's awesome that you're a steward and you do give that back. So what are some of your bigger sponsors this year?
Well, Common Spirit is our title sponsor. We've got Primal and Audi Denver and Cyclist Lawyer.
Well, by the way, Andrew told me to tell you hi. I told him we were talking today.
Cool. Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm trying to think here. We have a lot of in-kind. We had the feed last year. I'm sure we'll come up with some work with them. Tailwind actually is going to be our hydration supplier. We had them the last 2 years. They're a Durango company. Mm-hmm. We always try to look, locally if we can for any of that stuff. So working on some ones.
Well, Bill, thank you very much. I appreciate everything. Appreciate you being here today, and I'm sure we'll be talking between now and then.
All right. Thank you, Gary, and look forward to having you on the ride.
Okay. Well, talk to you later, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks.